Welcome everyone. This is Andres Restart. I'm joined with my I'm joined by What About Nintendo, Brandon. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. How you guys doing? In the chat and you
They're
too,
good.
Andres. Of
What's
course.
up, Blackstar Dude? Hey, Lazy James. How you guys doing? We have a fair bit of to talk about today, guys. So if this is your first time here, this is a Nintendo podcast. We do pretty much every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So the topics we have today are, we're going to be discussing a potential Nintendo 3DS successor. We'll get into the news in a little bit. We're going to talk about our current impressions of Wolfenstein 2. Both Brandon and I got review copies for the game. Of course, the game's already came out last Friday, but we're currently have our reviews in progress right now, so we'll talk about that for a little bit together. Then we'll talk about the potential for more Bethesda games coming in the future. Then we're going to be talking about these recent news that have, I think, surfaced today. There have been other things about it in the past, but basically, it doesn't sound good about where Retro Studios is at right now. There are some employees talking about the company maybe shutting down. Others saying that they need a change in management. We're going to be talking about that. They're also going to be talking about how Yoshi and Metroid are progressing, apparently, but there's also some implications there, so we'll get into that. Then we'll be talking about maybe some impressions about Labo and Mario Kart. I just literally played it for the first... This is the first time I actually got around to actually using the Labo with Mario Kart. We'll talk about that. And then we're talking about Smash Weekly. Basically, just the weekly update on all the news that have come out with Smash Bros., which also includes an interview from Famitsu by Sakurai. And we won't cover that entirely. We may, but we're going to talk about at least the big points that came from that. So we have a lot to talk about today. But just a warning for those, or disclaimer. In my room right now, it is like 90 degrees. Currently do not have any sort of air conditioning setup, and I basically live in a boiler. I am sweating. I've been sweating 24/7 in this apartment. It almost feels cooler outside, and that is terrible. So bear with me. I have this water, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to run out really soon. Yeah, but still, there's some cool stuff to talk about, so let's get started. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat first. Blackstar Dude apparently playing Alex Kidd. Is that a...
I've heard of it's like an indie game, but I don't remember exactly what it is. I do recall the name though.
Alex Kidd. Okay, I don't really know much about it to look into it. But you know, let's just jump into this news right here, because I think this is potentially really interesting. I'm adjusting my lights a little. But so, you know, Shuntaro Furukawa is now officially the president of Nintendo. Some information has come out, and he was asked about, you know, if their 3DS is going to get a successor, and apparently they are considering a successor for the Nintendo 3DS. They're considering it. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Pixelpar, someone who's been known to have inside sources who has leaked many different things, for example, Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. He's talking about that for months before it even before it was announced officially. He's saying that he thinks it's interesting that they're quoting that information as considering a 3DS successor, because from what he knows, there already is one, and he's not talking about the Nintendo Switch. However, he didn't say if it would be an iteration of the Switch or of the 3DS, but he is saying that from what he knows, there is some sort of other hardware already known about behind closed doors that they are working on. So then, Brandon, just from this information I presented to you, I'm sure you've heard most of it already. What do you think about this? What do you think is going on with all of this?
Yeah, man, it's very interesting. I'm sure they have all kinds of, you know, new versions of all their systems. I'm sure they're already working on a new version of the Switch. They may even have new prototypes for a new version of Switch, or a different version that didn't end up coming to pass. So this very well could be, you know, kind of what they were going to release if the Switch ended up bombing. If the Switch ended up just doing absolutely terrible, you know, did Wii U numbers again, you know, nothing good came of the Switch, then they could fall back on, you know, this new 3DS or new 4DS or whatever you want to call it, this new handheld that they have. But I just don't see this actually coming to fruition. You know, since they merged, you know, their handheld, their home console units, the Switch is doing so well. They're pretty much putting all their eggs in that basket, and it's working out really well for them. So I think this is just some kind of, you know, a thing that they made, you know, just in case the Switch failed. And, you know, the Switch didn't fail. So I don't think this is ever going to come to pass. Of course, as you said, there is the option that maybe it's a new version of the Switch or a handheld-only version of the Switch, which we've been saying is a good idea for a while now, a Switch Mini, you know. We've been talking about that for a while, so I think that's all it is. One of those two options.
Yeah. Well, I think my. No, I mean, I'm not saying I disagree with you per se, but so the way it works, right, is that basically every time a piece of hardware comes out, Nintendo is already working on the next iteration. This is like the same way for other, console manufacturers as well. Same thing with Xbox, same thing with Sony. They're always working on a future piece of hardware, right? But not only are they always working on the next iteration, they have different plans, different ideas. Like, there are several ideas, and sometimes maybe one or two of those ideas eventually, materialize into an actual product, while most of those ideas are just thrown into the dumpster or just put into, the pipeline to eventually come out way down the road. For example, like, let's say, for the GameCube, they were originally talking about or planning a peripheral to offer 3D graphics. Like, you can actually, like, that's supposed to work with Luigi's Mansion at first, but that idea didn't materialize, right? We just got Luigi's Mansion on the GameCube, and eventually that technology that they were playing around with materialized with the Nintendo 3DS. So ideas like that are always bouncing around. So to sort of bring it full circle to what we're actually talking about here, how there's information suggesting that Nintendo has a 3DS successor in mind, potentially, I think it's situational, right? Because they have ideas, they have plans for different products, and depending how the situation goes, they may or may not release that. Like you said, Brandon, it could be because, maybe they were thinking maybe if the Switch doesn't pan out, we'll still have something more along the lines of a 3DS, maybe like an HDS or something, 4DS, down the road. But because the Switch is so successful, I don't think they're going to have a normal, like, 3DS follow-up. However, just kind of looking into what Pixelpar said, because I do believe he has inside information, right? What is he saying? He's not saying necessarily that it's a literal sequel to the 3DS, right? But he's saying that there is a piece of hardware that is in the works. I could see maybe he could be referring to potentially a Switch Mini, right? Something that's a little bit more portable, a little bit more user-friendly, or like more accommodating to a younger audience, maybe more durable, right? Kind of like the 2DS, right? The 2DS to the 3DS, something like that for the Switch that will maybe be a little cheaper, and something that maybe won't be coming with a dock or something like that. That way, a younger audience can have it. It can be cheaper, and that'll be kind of like a more of a traditional portable system. Right?
Yeah.
That may be in the works, but I also think if that's in the works, there's a high likelihood they could have like a 4K dock or something like that in the works as well.
Right.
And let me kind of explain why. Not just because of the patents, which we've talked about many times before, but if you look at all of the games that are running on Nintendo systems, right? Like, for example, Wolfenstein 2, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, it has a dynamic resolution. So basically, it kind of, that resolution and the textures and stuff, they scale up and down. So if the Switch had a more powerful dock, we would see more clearer resolutions, a higher resolution, better textures, simply by having a more powerful dock. So I think a lot of the games on Switch are dynamic because it's meant to adjust. It already is adjusting because it has to adjust to portable mode and docked mode. And I think if in the future, if Nintendo can, which they do have patents for, they could release a more powerful dock, so then there'll be 3 different modes, and because most of the games are programmed to have a dynamic resolution, it'll be very easy to scale up and down between all 3 different modes.
Right,
That's just a theory of mine, but, yeah.
Yeah, that would be very easy, because all you gotta do is release a patch that, kind of makes it recognize the new hardware. So that wouldn't even be that hard. You don't have to go in, and you don't have to really do much of the, just a quick patch, and there you go. Because you don't have to add new textures or anything. You just can, make the textures that are already there, pop in, load in faster, make the resolution stay a little bit higher than normal, keep the frame rate steadier than it was before. And that can be all done with a really quick patch. But I think they're also kind of, in my mind, kind of experimenting with the idea of a Switch Mini by selling, that dockless Switch in Japan. I think maybe that is kind of their, like, let's see how a handheld-only Switch would sell, and maybe that's kind of their testing grounds, and then maybe that's when they'll decide whether or not they need a Switch Mini. That could be an idea.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. You have to kind of consider the different markets, right? In Japan, that sort of skew makes sense, because in Japan, they typically only have 1 television per household, but in America we usually have 2, 3, or 4, sometimes more, right? So in America, that strategy may not work out exactly right? But just kind of like to what you're saying, they do try out different SKUs, and they are considering different ways to sort of cater to the different markets out there. So in America, right, there are a lot of kids who want to have Switches around, but they may consider, oh, maybe we should have a Switch Mini for that, or maybe they think the Switch is good enough. It may be, and there may not be a Switch Mini. Maybe there won't be a 4K dock. Maybe they'll just have a Switch 2.0. Come sooner than later. There are a lot of different options. It kind of depends on how the market reacts to all these different things Nintendo will test out, and we'll see. But I definitely think there are several products in the works, and only some of them will materialize, in eventually. Like, literally, the patents for the 4K dock, that's not... I mean, we call it 4K dock, but there are patents for a supplemental computing device. That means this is confirmed information, 100% official information. Nintendo has or is playing around with the idea of a device that will power up the NX, which is now known as the Nintendo Switch. But will that materialize as an actual commercial product that we can have in our houses? That remains to be seen, but Nintendo is testing around with that idea.
I'm sure they already have a version of the Switch that runs... with the new Tegra, because the X2 was already out when the Switch released. It was just kind of more of a high price chip, so they didn't want to put that in. And it came so close to the release that they would have had to delay manufacturing in order to get that chip in. So they probably already have version of the Switch running with the X2. And they probably have some that are starting to be compatible with, it's not called the X3, it's some kind of new chip. It's a brand new name, a whole generational leap over the X chip series. They probably already have something working with that as well. So I'm sure they're working with all kinds of stuff. It's just hard to say, what this product actually is for certain, because I mean, I'm sure they're testing just everything they can.
Yeah, for sure. So I think there's definitely different things that they could be trying out for sure. But I guess we won't really know too soon. I don't think we're going to find out about any of this in the immediate future. I think 2019 is the first we'll actually start to hear about any other alternative plans. Actually, do you think it's possible, Brandon, that maybe they could introduce like a SKU like a month or two from now that will maybe cater to a different market? Like maybe they're like, oh, hey guys, we're going to announce Switch Mini to come with Pokemon Let's Go. Like what if they did that? Like just 1 or 2 months from now.
I feel like that would be a weird timing. I guess that could happen. I mean, they announced the new 3DS, in like November, just randomly, just all of a sudden. So it's possible. I don't think it's likely. I feel like they would wait till like E3 or some kind of big, gigantic like presentation direct to announce something like that. Because I think it's a less... They don't really do this that much with their consoles, even though this is a weird because it's console and a handheld. And they do this all the time with their handhelds, but it's also a console at the same time, which they don't typically do that. So it's a really weird position. It's really hard to predict, but I don't think it'd be likely.
Right. Yeah, I don't think it'd be likely either. I do feel like maybe in 2019, where... Because the thing is, I think that idea would make sense for a more traditional Pokemon game, because Pokemon Let's Go, like, they are designing it for more of a home sort of setup, right? Because of the heavy motion control integration. I think in 2019 we get that Pokemon game. If there is a Switch Mini that they're going to release, I think it makes sense to have it come out with that game that's going to be more portable focused.
They said they're wanting to focus on the home console for Let's Go, and they want to focus more on the portable for Generation 8. That's what they said. If I'm not mistaken. So
yeah, it's pretty close to it. Yeah. Yep.
And I can see a 4K dock come out closer to when, the Xbox 2 and the PS5 is coming out. And they're like, hey guys, you're a little bit worried that the PS5 and the Xbox 2 are going to outclass the Switch, but don't worry, we got this super powered dock
and
that
it
will
could
help compete.
I think it would be kind of like giving the same way the PS4 Pro and Xbox One X have given more life to PS4 and Xbox One. I think this 4K dock we're talking about, if they decide to do it, would kind of give the Switch a 2 to 3 more years of a life to compete. Because the way I would see it working is like portable mode now is kind of the bomb diggity, right? Like no one really complains about portable mode about any game. Like Wolfenstein 2, Doom, which are usually kind of like the big graphical powerhouses for the showcases for the Nintendo Switch. Portably, the complaints are so minimal, right? But it's usually in docked mode where people are like, hey, this doesn't really kind of measure up to other home consoles. And right now it's kind of okay, but 2 years from now, it probably be less okay, right? And at that point, a 4K dock would make more sense. So at that point, the comparisons will really be, okay, Switch portable mode, which is probably still going to be fine, and then Switch in 4K dock or whatever mode, whatever, an enhanced dock that makes things look and run better so it can compete. I could see something maybe like that maybe happening in the future. But again, I want to stress that these are all products that they think about, talk about, but doesn't mean they will all materialize. It kind of depends on how the market goes. Because what if PlayStation 5 and Xbox One or Xbox 2 or whatever, Xbox One X sequel, like whatever they are, what if they come out 3-4 years from now rather than 2 years from now? At that point, maybe they should just transition to the next Switch, right? Rather than having a dock. Right? Or maybe those systems aren't even focused on being more powerful. What if they're just kind of more like a lateral move? Like maybe they are more portable themselves, or maybe they focus more on just kind of digital streaming. Like there's different directions the market can go. So Nintendo has to be adaptive or reactive. So they probably have different plans. It kind of depends on how things pan out.
Right. I mean, it's hard to complain about the handheld mode when it's such a big jump over what we saw in the 3DS and the PS Vita.
Right.
Like this is the best handheld experience we've ever had by far. It's not even close.
Right.
So it's really hard to complain about that. But on the home console side, I can see the complaints for sure.
Yeah. I guess one concern is that because the big draw for the Switch is that it can play console games, will these console games 4 years from now still be function in portable mode? I think the answer is yes, but we may be looking at like 480p games, which also
we're already looking at 480p.
We may get like a new Switch, right? The same way how we got a new 3DS that has a little bit more horsepower. We may get another Switch as well. That's kind of like, it's not a full-on new generation, but enough so that games kind of run at not the worst resolutions, even in portable mode. But I want to move on and answer some questions in the chat.
Okay.
But if there's anything you want to say for the 3DS successor, just we can address that in a moment. But
I'm pretty much done.
Okay, cool. So first thing, what's up, Sabbath? Hey, Captain Steve. Hey, Snowman. Hey, Ninjondo777. You got 3 sevens. I saw that. How you guys doing? But first, Snowman was saying he thinks there's gonna be a more powerful dock to make. It would make sense. I agree. Like that's why I kind of brought it up. I think it would make sense to have a much more powerful dock for sure. Sabbath is saying, "Oh, Nintendo 4DS." I think that would have happened if the Switch failed. And then Jondo, in terms of where did I hear retro shutting down, it's something that just kind of materialized today in terms of the news. Now, the way we're going to sort of get more into detail with this, but if you check Reset Era, someone did some research and they found this came out actually in May, several employees were sort of giving their thoughts and opinions of what's going on with Retro Studios. And these are coming from actual employees. Some of them are talking about there should be a change of management. Some of them are talking about that Retro Studios may shut down. Like, based off what these employees are saying, there's a lot of negative things stirring within that development studio right now. So I just want to make it clear, I'm not saying Retro Studios is shutting down, but based off these employee interviews, it does not look good, right? So I put the question mark because it is in question, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen. But I think it's bad. Actually, I mean, we could jump into this topic now. I could just move the topic up if you want to cover this now.
I mean, it seems like a good segue. So
it seems like a good segue, so I'm just going to have to adjust the topics. But, Brandon, what do you think about this? I'm going to read the interviews in a moment, but what are your just initial thoughts from this?
Yeah. From what I've understood, the website itself that has the reviews is sort of questionable, so it's hard to judge if these are real reviews or not. From what I've heard, I'm not completely sure if that's the case, but that's just what I've been hearing, that the website where the reviews are doesn't have the best credibility, but it's possible that these are from real people. But if it is indeed real and these employees, I haven't read the interviews myself, so I'm very interested as well to hear exactly what they say. But I'm kind of worried, to be honest, about how Retro Studios is doing. I mean, they haven't really talked about anything much. They haven't shown any new projects. It's just kind of been complete silence since Tropical Freeze, other than the ports. So it's kind of scary in a way.
Yeah, it is. And when you consider the rumors about Star Fox Grand Prix, and then supposedly there may have been another game, we've been waiting so long for a game from Retro Studios. The last actual full-on new game we got was Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, which came out in 2013? We're in 2018. That was a 2D game.
Yeah.
Or a 2.5D game. You know,
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's not a great game. I love Tropical Freeze, but I mean,
it's amazing.
It's not like a open world Breath of the Wild kind of project, right? It's not. So, I'm just saying, like,
it's been a long time.
It's been a long time, and they haven't really been producing any content. So what's going on? So, like, you know, we don't need these interviews to already get us down that track of wondering, is something going down? But to speak to the credibility of this, so I guess it would come down to what Glassdoor profile is. I don't know about Glassdoor profile. It seems like a company. I'll do a quick Google search right now just to kind of see what this is, because I feel like most people are just going to see your support and talk about it without actually considering the source information. So,
Andres, just letting you know, your camera seems to have froze. Just heads up.
Great.
But yeah, continue.
Great. The camera froze. Nothing I can do about that.
Oop.
I'll have to restart the stream to fix it.
Well, at least we can hear your lovely voice.
Great.
They can see my beautiful face more often.
Great. I freaking hate this. I'm sweating right now. This is terrible. Whatever.
At least you don't live in Texas. It's like 100 degrees outside right now. It's terrible.
Okay, so Glassdoor it's a company for. It's a website that kind of like organizes like reviews about companies. Okay.
From what I've heard, it's pretty easy to put a review up for a company, though. But that's just what I've heard.
All right, well then let's actually go into these actual things, because they don't really seem like. When you look at the reviews, there's nothing about it that makes you think that it's fake. So let's just go into. So here's one sort of person anonymous employee talking about this. Okay. His title being, "The Spark Left This Place a Long Time Ago." All right, so he doesn't recommend this company. He had saying they have a negative outlook and disapproves of the CEO. He says he worked at Retro Studios full time. Here are the pros. We got free games sometimes, and it's a steady paycheck. Cons: half the team is expecting Nintendo to shut it down, and the other half is hoping Nintendo sees the elephant in the room and changes management. Advice to management: just move to Vegas and get it over with. Okay, so this person, assuming it's real, right? It kind of seems like he has very negative opinion of what's going on right now. Okay, but he's not the only one. There's another one, right? He's saying he also doesn't recommend it. He's also saying there's a negative outlook, and he disapproved the CEO. He's been working at Retro Studios full time for more than 5 years. Okay, but here are the pros. You get to be part of the Nintendo family, and you get a consistent paycheck. Here are the cons. Upper management is seemingly unwilling to seek out help in areas where they are ill-equipped. The Peter principle is apparent throughout most departments. Unpaid overtime. Little to no empowerment. Advice to management: radically increase transparency. Add systems to enforce accountability of upper management. Ask for help and be open to constructive criticism. So, you know, these aren't things. It doesn't, from my perspective, it doesn't sound like employees, like fake employees. It doesn't sound like some fanboy saying, "I'm going to talk trash about Retro Studios." Like this. These sound like actual employees who did not have a good experience with Retro Studios. And if you take what they're saying at face value, it sounds like there are huge problems for management at Retro Studios. So, and again, you know, it kind of adds up. Like, even if I'm not saying Retro Studios is shutting down, but it's very clear that something's wrong. It has been so long since we've heard anything about anything coming from them.
Right.
So it's concerning.
It's been forever.
It's concerning.
For sure. Yeah, those don't sound good. For sure. Seems, I don't know. We'll have to. It's hard to say exactly, you know, what the problem is. The reviews don't go too specific into exactly who or what the problem is. It's just kind of management doesn't seem to be good. I'm kind of curious as to what exactly they're doing wrong. Because it didn't seem to go into too much detail, unless there's something I missed or something, you know, a point I glanced over. But it definitely doesn't sound good. And yeah, as you said, they don't sound like fake reviews. They sound pretty legitimate. So it's hard to say. I don't know. It just doesn't sound good. It's kind of scary because I love Retro Studios. They've made some really good games, and I would not want to see them shut down. So maybe Nintendo can do something about the management and fix that, and make it better. I don't know.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I just don't know what's quite going on. It's disappointing because I definitely wanted to at least see Star Fox Grand Prix. And I always consider Retro
Right?
Studios to be like
Master
a high
class.
quality developer, and
Right.
I think maybe that standard may be holding them back potentially. Like I could easily see a situation where because they're held to such a high quality standard that they just can't find themselves capable of outputting quality content. Like they've probably been working on something, but nothing has materialized because nothing they've been working on has been good enough to release to the public.
Right.
And
Yeah,
this,
they may be holding themselves to, if this is not a 10 out of 10 game, it absolutely cannot release kind of standard, and maybe that's why they're taking it so long, which, I mean, could be a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing. Sometimes you pull a Square Enix and you don't release any game, you don't release a game you're working on for 13 years, and other times it helps to not get, into more of a like EA situation where you're releasing games that are just crap or not up to par at release, and you're having to do a bunch of patches. But so there's two different ways that kind of mentality can go on, and it's hard to say. Well, there's other options, but those are the two that mostly happen, or the two, I guess, best case scenarios. I'm not sure, but those are just two of the scenarios that could happen, and I'm wondering if it's the former, where they're just like, well, we got to make it even bigger and even better and all of this stuff, and they're just pushing it back forever. That's another possibility. I think that could happen, and maybe the management's just being too strict. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're just being too hard on the employees, and they're just like, no, you have to do it perfect, and you have to do it now. Kind of just pushing them to be absolutely perfect and get things done, as quickly, but also like extremely, perfection and stuff like that. So maybe that's the problem the manager was having. They're just being too strict and expecting things that just aren't realistic. That's just another possibility. It's really hard to say because the reviews are pretty vague.
Yeah, that it could be the case. I think at the very least, like it's clear that they're not outputting at a consistent rate. Mm-hmm. That's just clear. It's been 5 years.
Painfully clear.
It's been 5 years. Nothing should take that long. Not even Breath of the Wild. Okay, well, Breath of the Wild, well,
it took about that time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, it did.
But we knew about it. We knew about it though. At that point, for like 2 years. We knew about it,
and that game was also. Yeah, there was other extenuating circumstances because Zelda had, they had to save it for the Switch and stuff. Like there was other extenuating circumstances that let it have it be longer. But we still knew about the game. But you know what though? Nintendo did struggle to get the physics engine running. It's one of the reasons why Zelda took so long, because the physics engine in Breath of the Wild is so advanced. They had a high quality standard, and they worked very hard to make sure that it would match that standard. And It took Zelda a long time to get to that standard. Granted, it was a big open world game, so
probably one of the most polished open world games I've ever played. Easily.
We were kind of touching on it in the Discord chat earlier, actually, because we were talking a little bit about how not Wolfenstein, but Fallout, or a lot of Bethesda games tend to be a little glitchy, but Fallout was the example we used. It was pretty glitchy even after 3 years with patches. Apparently, it's still glitchy. But Breath of the Wild, on the other hand, in contrast, as a big open world game, it's very hard to find a glitch in that game. It's very hard to find a glitch, and I think that kind of just is a testament to how much work and polish was put into Breath of the Wild.
For sure.
So, is there anything else we want to kind of add to Retro Studios, or should we use this as a segue into Wolfenstein 2, another game made by Bethesda?
I think we should use this as a segue because I think there's just not that much information. We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
I hope for the best. I don't think Nintendo would just leave them for dead. I don't actually think that they're just gonna let this. Yeah, whatever it happens, even if they have to change things around, they're gonna take something from it. They're not gonna completely abandon the developer altogether. Maybe maybe that they have to move the team, change the team, but the core essence of them some of it will at least be saved. I think. Worst case scenario. So, but going back to what I was saying about Bethesda games, we are going to talk about Wolfenstein 2. So, Brandon, I know you got a review copy. I got a review copy. We've been playing this game for a few days already. How do you feel about it so far?
I feel it's really good. I was actually live streaming it today, and I had a great time killing some Nazis. It was amazing. That game is really phenomenal. Just the fact that it's on the Switch, like that is one of the most graphically demanding games that's come out for any console or PC in a while. Like that is not an easy game to run. Even on like the Xbox One, there's variable resolutions, frame drops. So even on the other consoles, it's hard. It's hard on those systems, and yet it's running pretty dang well on the Switch. But there are some issues. There's some areas that get pretty blurry. There's this one area where you're in a court house, and that area is pretty blurry. And there are a couple areas where the frame rate dips. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the product. Having a great time.
Yeah, I actually remember the scene you're talking about. I also got to the courtroom scene as well. Because the courtroom scene had several different rooms. Like there was the inner room, and then there was the outer room. If you went into the outer room and you rushed back into the inner room, like you would look in and it would look blurry.
Right.
So the game, but it would clear up. It wouldn't stay blurry though. At least in my experience, it wouldn't stay blurry. It would clear up after a little bit.
No, it depended on the situation. There was a lot of destructible environments. So if things
that was
were,
another thing I noticed. Like you could
breaking,
basically tear apart the entire.
Right.
Seating, all of the wooden seating, you could just see all the wood fall apart, which I was like, oh, there's a lot going on here. So, I mean, I do notice the blurriness here and there, but as I've already put in, I think I've already put in like 5 hours at least into the game, and at this point, I don't know how much hours I put in, but I've put in at least a handful. Like, I don't really notice anymore. Like, yeah, here and there, I'm like, okay. But for the most part, as I play the game now, I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm playing this game. It looks really cool, and I'm having fun. Like, that's it. Like, I think the game holds up pretty well for the most part. I rarely notice any slowdown. I do notice the blurriness here and there, but more cases than not, the game looks great. And I'm playing mostly in TV mode for the record. So that's where all of its blemishes are most noticeable. And it looks good to me. It feels great to me. I honestly am just excited about the game. I've had several moments where I'm just like, oh my god, what's going on? Right? Court scene that you referenced. I don't want to spoil anything from everyone, but when he just kind of like broke out, I was like, what?
Right.
And then I don't want to say what happens after that, but there's a couple scenes that happen after that. There's like, oh, okay.
I know what you're talking about.
I was everything just
my
threw
mind
me for
was
a loop.
Blown.
My mind was blown 3 different times.
It was.
Three different times in like 20 minutes, my mind was blown. So, like, it was just, I don't know, I'm having a lot of fun with the game. But the interesting thing, though, is after that level, the court scene level, the game kind of opens up. Like, I almost kind of felt like, oh, is this like, the halfway point or near the climax of the game or something? Like, you know what I mean? But, like, the game opens up after this point, so, like, there's actually a lot more game left after the court scene level.
I had to stop pretty much after that set of cutscenes, so I'm not quite sure what you're talking about. But I'm going to be playing it, later today, so I can finish it for the review.
Basically,
so I'll see what you're talking about then.
Basically, it's just kind of like before that moment, it was kind of like you go from one moment to the next, and it's just kind of like a straightforward narrative. By this point, I'm not saying it's like you get options in terms of exploration and going back and doing different stuff. So. Yeah, the game opens up in that way. You can actually go to you can choose different levels to go to, and do stuff. So there is still like the main thing, but there are like side quests or side missions to do, and it's very interesting. I've had a lot of fun with it, and I'm actually considering kind of a unique way to review this game because. Well, one, I don't think anyone's going to watch my review, but also two, I think that I could add something a bit extra. So I'm going to review the game, but for the record, I think my preview pretty much covers most of the points so far, but when I have my review hopefully come out this Friday, I'm going to make other comparisons to the game because I'm watching this game sort of understanding the technology of the Switch, right? Looking at how it's outputting graphics, looking at how the controls are working, the gyro controls are working, and also sort of comparing it to other games that I know that could come out on Nintendo systems. So it's just giving me an interesting perspective. But I've loved it so far. And actually, I want to talk about the gyro controls. How do you feel about them?
Oh, they're great. I feel like they work just as well as Splatoon. They do work a little bit differently because you're actually able to use the C stick to aim up and down, unlike in Splatoon where you had to use the gyro. And these are a little more. They kind of like make you rely on C stick a bit more for big movements. And you know the gyro is much more for the smaller aiming movements, but I think works well because you should never use gyro to be looking around with the camera. It's just not a good idea. Like that's not what gyro is for. I've seen people play gyro and I don't have a Switch controller with me at the moment. If my parents are playing it. But you know, I've seen some people, they're over here like trying to do all this to play, and they're like, I keep getting it all like weird positions. And I'm like, that's because you're trying to use gyro to move the camera. So in this way, I think it works even a little bit better for this game in Splatoon because this one's much it's not as fast, I'd say, as a lot of times when you're in Splatoon. You have to go like really fast, like swimming through ink and up walls and all this stuff. You don't have to do all that kind of crazy maneuvers in Doom, or excuse me, Wolfenstein. I've been saying Doom, haven't I? Sorry, someone in the comments was asking about Doom and I got confused. But in Wolfenstein, you don't really have to do all these crazy movements. So I feel like using the C stick, you know, for up and down and all this and bigger movements works a lot better the way they implemented it. And I think a lot of thought went into how that works. My only problem is it doesn't have a dedicated recentering button. So sometimes, like I'll load into a level and my camera will be up like this, and then I have to like use the C stick to move it back down, or it'll be like slightly off, and I want to just correct it back to the middle, and I have to kind of fiddle with the C stick to try to get it to work. But that never really affected gameplay that much. It was mostly just when I'm walking around that it affected me. So it didn't ever get me killed, but it was kind of an annoyance.
It didn't annoy me at all. I see what you mean. I do think they should patch the game to have like a centering button, but like because the way it is, like you still use the analog stick. It's not, oh, I use gyro controls instead of the analog stick. It's supposed to, the gyro controls are meant to be used in conjunction with the analog stick to create a very fast but also precise aiming system. And you can customize it, right? So like you're saying, this kind of gyro aiming feels a little slower or more subtle than Splatoon. But if you go to the options, it's set at 50, right? If you move it to slower, they say, oh, this is more for aiming assist, right? Which is more of the subtle sort of help, you know. But if you move it more towards the right, it becomes maybe faster. And I imagine I haven't moved it all the way to the 100, but I imagine if you move it all the way to the 100, it'll feel a lot closer to Splatoon. And more to the left, it's more and more subtle.
Right now.
Okay, so yeah, like you're more to the right than I am, actually. So I think I'm like at 60 or something. But I like it a lot. I think it's...
Yeah, I think it's amazing.
Yeah, I do. I think... I don't think it's perfect, though. I do think that they could do more to maybe... It's actually kind of more of a critique of the game overall, in the sense that I think there are some things that they could be more clear about what's going on with the game in terms of tutorials or how different things work. I think they could explain it a little better. It's not like terrible. I just kind of feel like they could explain it a little better, more clear. Same thing with the motion controls, right? Like I feel like they could have maybe offered a tutorial on that or some sort of practicing mode on that. But it's also not the default, right? You have to go into the options and try it out. So I feel like most people aren't even going to try it out, right? Until like it's just, you know, for those who are a fan of it, they're going to look for it. But if you're not a fan of it, you're not even going to try it out. So I guess that's the thing. It's not like the default. But I think it's worth it, and I think it does create a better shooting experience when you have the right setup for it.
Right. I never really thought I needed a tutorial or to get used to it. But maybe it's because I played Splatoon 2 so much. Like I played well over 100 hours of that game, and I played like hundreds of hours as the original Splatoon, so I'm kind of really used to aiming with, you know, either a mouse and keyboard or with the gyro controls. So maybe that's why. But I thought it worked really well. My only issue was the recentering button. I think is a minor annoyance sometimes.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that I think they could have put more into it because here's the thing. You're someone who likes it, who uses it, right? But there are a bunch of people who won't. And like I said, it's not the default option. You have to go into the options and turn it on. So I'm just saying I wish they offered just like different situations, like, hey, maybe we should try this out, see how it works. You know, these are the nuances of this mechanic, like stuff like that. I think would have been really interesting.
Right. Yeah, might help the people out who are trying to like not use the right stick and just aiming and get all that confused. So
well, that's the thing. There are people who there are just some people who can't have motion controls. They think you have to flail everything everywhere, but it's not about flailing. It's about subtle, really subtle movements, like really subtle, where you just slightly twist your hands in slight directions. It's almost like when you play video games, like before motion controls were a thing, the whole premise behind motion controls is that if you think about it, we always move controllers when we're like really into a game. We always, like, that sort of like motif of people playing like a racing game together and they're like tilting the controller just because they want to turn more. Like, that's something that we naturally do. And with the motion controls that are currently in place for, I'm assuming, both Doom and Wolfenstein 2, it's about subtle movements where it's just like slightly assisting you. Of course, you can change it around a little bit so it's more intense or more subtle. But the point is, it's not supposed to be this extreme waggle, extreme lame fest. It's meant to create more precise aiming and speed. That's something that most shooter games on like actual home consoles don't offer. So it's really cool.
It's a lot more natural. It feels like it almost feels like how you would aim like a gun. You can almost feel like an imaginary gun is almost attached to your controller and you're moving it around.
Yeah, there actually were moments where I stopped using the analog stick and I stood in place and I would just kind of like use the controller to aim around quickly. That felt better than using the analog stick at times.
Right. Another question I had about, tutorials being bad is, did you ever, like, how long did it take you to understand how the leaning mechanic worked? Because I thought you had to hold down L and then use the right stick to lean, because, it's your camera, so it makes sense you would move your camera like that.
I'm glad my camera's not working now.
You hold down L and then you have to use the left stick and then that tilts you. So I didn't understand that. So for the longest time I was holding down L and I was like flicking the right stick like, why is it broken? Why is it not working? So that took me a while.
I still haven't figured out this like tilting mechanic. Like I know when I go around corners and walls, like my gun sort of move around, but I haven't figured out how to like kind of angle around corners and shoot.
All you have to do is hold down the left bumper, and then move
that literally goes to what I'm saying though. There is no tutorial in the game that says that.
There's
not. You have to figure that out. That is literally goes to what I'm saying. I wish they offered more like tutorials to kind of give you a better idea. See, the thing is, they have that system in place because they tell you how to do that with some things. But another annoying thing to me though is that sometimes when you get a new weapon, it gives you like a description of the weapon. It takes forever to get rid of that text. Like, there's not just like a close button. Like, you have to perform certain functions with that weapon before they will erase it. And the functions, it's not like sometimes it just tells you about the weapon. It's not even like, this is how you use the weapon. It just tells you about the weapon. Okay, I can check that later. So, just minor, really minor gripes here.
You can turn them off, but I like to keep them on because sometimes they'll give you information.
Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, I've read the information. I don't need it
there,
anymore.
Though.
Get off
but
my
it's
screen.
Still there, exactly. Sometimes that happens. I want to address some of the questions, though, in the chat because we've been talking about this for a little bit. Yeah, I'm not sure which one to say, Wolfenstein 2 or Doom. I think from what I haven't played Doom, so there's that. But from what I've heard, and when I played Wolfenstein 2, I feel like Wolfenstein 2 is a little bit more polished than Doom, but they both play really well. They both play really fast. They're both really fast. Wolfenstein 2 plays really fast, but Doom is a bit more arcadey, and Wolfenstein 2 is more for that that narrative. Like if you're looking for like an epic story experience with gruesome fights, Wolfenstein 2. If you're looking for more of an arcadey, just straight up shooter that also offers multiplayer, that's also really fast and intense, you pick Doom. That's kind of like that.
I would say Doom is faster. There's a lot more emphasis on running and jumping around the environment than Wolfenstein. And just in the general game is a lot faster because you don't have to sit there and, wait through, tons of story cutscenes. Even though the story cutscenes are good in Wolfenstein, for people who want just to get back into the game, that can take a while. And sometimes there are 4 segments where it's essentially a cutscene, but you can interact with the camera, so, well, too bad you can't skip it. So for people who want more just straight-up action nonstop, You definitely want to go with more of a Doom experience, and the
Yeah.
character is faster. Doom Guy is faster. That's his official name for real. It's weird. Doom Guy. He jumps a lot more, so if you want a little more platforming, you're gonna get Doom. But if you want more of a story experience with some great, hilarious characters, but also a deep emotional story at the same time, it's weird how they mix the two, but it works really well. And you still want really good shooting gameplay as well. You want to go with Wolfenstein too.
Yeah. For someone, just random thing. I mentioned earlier that I'm glad my camera's off. It's because I was drinking water and half of the water literally spilled out of my mouth onto my shorts. So yeah. But anyways, yeah. From what I played Wolfenstein 2, I really enjoy it, and I'm the kind of person who doesn't like sitting down and just paying attention to a narrative, because usually the narrative, like the story in a video game, it's just not well paced, man. It's just like sometimes there's certain games that have you sitting in the bed for 20 minutes for the beginning of the game and listening to a bunch of nurses talk about your dead body or whatever. Like that has always annoyed me. And I'm not just sticking. I am kind of pointing fingers at Metal Gear Solid 5, but it's not the only game that does that. And that's known as a game with a really good story. Okay, and that annoyed me. But for Wolfenstein 2, I haven't been annoyed at all. So, like, I think the pacing of the story in Wolfenstein 2 is very good. And it's never too long. I think there's a good balance between story scenes and gameplay.
Right.
And
most of it's completely up to you, because there's a lot of extra story bits you can get just from walking around the hub area and listening into conversations. It's really cool the way they do that. You just naturally, they're like, hey, how's it going? Hey, let's talk about this thing that's happening.
They're really good at making it seem organic. Like, you just walk up to them and they start talking to you about stuff, and if you choose to listen, you get some really interesting information about the other characters. It's really cool. I love Wolfenstein 2, guys. It's a great game so far.
My one problem with the story is that if you play through, because I played through 3 hours of the game, and then I went back and tried to play through the same segment in handheld mode to see how it performed, and you cannot skip certain scenes that go on for a long time because you can interact with the camera. That's it. That's the only reason you can't skip it. They're literally not gameplay segments. You're pretty much just watching a cutscene, except you can look around and there's no way to skip it. I don't know, maybe if you have like a New Game Plus, maybe it's fixed in that. I can't say for certain. Hopefully it is, but if you want to actually start a new save file and just play through the game again, you're going to have to watch a lot of cutscenes that are they're gameplay segments, but they're just cutscenes where you can move the camera around and make a decision every once in a while.
So you can actually skip the non-gameplay segments though.
Yes, after it loads, which takes sometimes up to like 15 to 20 seconds.
Loading's a little slow.
Yeah, you can cut through those. I've noticed sometimes the loading's really quick, and sometimes the loading's really slow. It doesn't seem to be very consistent.
I don't like dying because I feel like it takes too long to load.
Dying for me takes about 6 seconds to load back. A lot of times I don't notice it finish loading because you have to hit Y.
It's a really subtle thing, like just the text just opens up at the bottom right. Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, why is it taking so long? Oh, it's been loaded for like a minute. I'm just sitting here for no reason.
Yeah. So. But let me see what else you guys are asking about this game. Yeah. But, I mean, just to fully answer your question still, man, this game isn't non-stop action like Doom. It's more story, action, wander, story, action. There's a lot of action. Don't get me wrong. Like, there's a lot.
A
lot. But I think it's very well paced, but there's a lot of breathers. There's a lot of moments, okay, we're gonna get some story now. Oh, then there's action. We're gonna get some story now. Okay, we're gonna wander around the ship now, talk to some... Well, you don't have to wander around and talk to everyone. You can just run through to the next mission and story if you want to. But you're kind of... I think in most cases, you're going to want to explore at least a little bit and see what the other characters have to say.
Yeah. So exploring this game, you can find all kinds of good stuff. Extra armor, extra ammo, collectibles, upgrades for your guns, which are really important.
Because you just told me that you only just got to the courthouse, right after the courthouse scene. Did you see any power-ups that literally give you new game mechanics?
Yes, I did.
So you can get more of them. Because you pick one, you can get all three.
I chose the third one.
Oh, I chose the shoulder pads. Because I can just ram everything and break through walls. Right. It's pretty cool. But yeah, you can actually acquire all three eventually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and each one, there's a side quest that improves them a little bit too. Yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, as the game progresses, you obtain new mechanics and stuff. It's not just a straight up like shooter like other shooter games. Like you're constantly exploring, learning more about the game world.
Right.
There's story.
There's separate paths to take all the time.
Yeah, that's another thing as well. Yeah, it's really cool. I'm loving it so far. So Luigi Plays is asking, Smash Ultimate or a Smash game in 2 years with 40 characters? I think Smash Ultimate is going to be the last Smash game for a while. There's only going to be one Smash game coming out on Nintendo Switch, and it's going to be Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So, yeah.
Is he trying to ask, like, which one we prefer? Because I don't quite understand the...
Oh, well, I mean, Smash Ultimate's going to have probably...
characters, and it seems pretty polished.
We have 68 current confirmed characters, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna hit at least 80.
And I don't quite get the point of the question. Is it like 40 more balanced characters, 40 characters,
well, maybe like 40 newcomers? I don't know. But I don't think we're getting another Smash game. I think Smash Ultimate is the game, and it's a new Smash game. It's not a port. It has a whole bunch of new content. I think we're gonna get a new single player. None of that's confirmed yet. They haven't told us about the modes, but I think
I hope we get some good modes.
Yeah, I mean the mechanics are different. You know, I'm happy with this, so I don't really need anything else in terms of Smash for a while.
Yep.
Yeah. So Savage is saying yesterday was the 20th anniversary of Banjo-Kazooie, so hopefully he does get into Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Please.
Hashtag bring back Banjo. Totally agree, man. Totally agree.
We gotta get that hashtag trending on Twitter.
Yeah, we need to do that. So I think we're ready to move on to the next topic.
Sure.
So. This is probably gonna be a short little topic, but you know, now Wolfenstein 2 is out, right? The question is, are there any other Bethesda games coming? And you know, the head of Bethesda has said that there will be more. They will be working with Nintendo Switch in the future, which basically means there'll be more Bethesda games. But what's coming? Are we eventually gonna get day and date games? Are we gonna get Fallout 76? Are we gonna get Skyrim 6? Oh, Elder Scrolls 6? Like
Doom Eternals?
Right. Like, are these games coming down the road? Or are we eventually gonna get to the point where we'll be day and date? For those that don't know that terminology, that means that a game comes out on the Switch at the same time as a competition. So, for example, Fallout 76. What if the Fallout 76 came on the Nintendo Switch as the same day as the PS4, Xbox, and PC? That would be day and date. But currently, Fallout 76 is not even slated for the Nintendo Switch. It may not come to the system. So, that's kind of the question. When are we going to get games? Because I think it's clear that there will be more Bethesda support. They literally said there would be. And we've already had several games already from Bethesda, and they've been great. They've been received pretty well. So, I don't know. I have a feeling that in terms for this year, that Wolfenstein 2 may be the last game we get from Bethesda. It wouldn't blow my mind if we got like another announcement for one, because it kind of happened last year with Doom.
Right.
When it came out of nowhere. Doom was announced like a month before it came out, and it came out in November. Like, that could happen again. But I have a feeling that we won't see more Bethesda support until next year.
Right. I could definitely see that happening, but I could also see day and date releases for some upcoming Bethesda games like Doom Eternal. Like, we haven't even had a full gameplay reveal of that game. That game is a long way off. I imagine probably, late 2019. That might be far enough away to where we could see
maybe Elder Scrolls 6.
Day and date release.
I think Elder Scrolls 6 is a game that
that's a next-gen game.
What are you trying to say?
That's a PS5 game.
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say that's not going for forever.
Oh, I thought you were trying to say that it wouldn't run on Switch.
No. Anything, dude. Freaking Wolfenstein 2 runs on the Switch, and anything could run on the Switch. It just
what I'm saying is that I think that whenever Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, it depends when it comes out. Because if it's like 4 years from now, then no, I don't think it'll come out for Nintendo Switch.
It's coming out next gen.
But I think it'll come out for Nintendo's next. I think it will come out on a Nintendo system. Is what I'm saying. If it's not Switch, I think it's going to come out Switch 2.0. Whatever,
Okay.
Yeah.
I can see that.
I think Nintendo has fixed their relationship at least a little bit, and they now understand what they need to do. They need to have architecture that is easy for developers to use.
Right.
Kind of weird how it took them this long to figure that out, but they're probably going to be sticking with NVIDIA for at least another decade or two.
Yeah, they already have a contract for what, like 10 years, 15 years? I forget how long exactly. A long time.
So at least for as long as that contract goes on, Nintendo's gonna be getting third-party support. Hopefully beyond that. Hopefully they realize, hey, we probably should continue in this route. But at least for the next couple generations.
Like beyond that, it's gonna be like, because graphics are the amount of jumps you're actually getting is so minimal. You know, console after console, we're getting to the point where it's just like any game can run on a handheld.
I don't know.
You know, it's like the next handheld, I don't think there's really gonna be a big issue. Maybe CPU bound.
I have no idea, man. I think it's gonna be really hard to predict where we're gonna be 10 years from now. Technology is progressing so quickly. It's gonna be really hard, in my opinion, to really gauge where we're gonna be. I feel like it's pretty likely that most systems are gonna be kind of like digital fully, right? Maybe they'll offer like like some sort of micro SD card thing where you can install games onto that or something, right? But like I think mostly 10 years from now, games are going to be pretty much all digital. Like you buy the systems and peripherals and accessories in stores, but like software, it's all digital. Like you can buy maybe cards, right, that are just download codes for games, but that I don't think there will be like cartridges or discs anymore. Like that's already being phased out as we speak.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't care. I'd like everything to be digital.
Yeah.
I do like my physical media though, but it doesn't have to be a case. It could be a cool amiibo or some kind of special thing.
That's gonna pull out an amiibo, but I realize my camera's not working.
Right.
Damn.
I got a bunch back there. So it could be something like that. I like physical media, but it doesn't have to be a case. Why? I don't know. And
that's why I think Amiibo is really strong. Is a really good idea for the future because like that's the thing. Like Nintendo's still gonna have things for us to buy that are gonna be collectibles.
Game. Like you go in the eShop and you scan an amiibo and it like unlocks as a game for you. That'd be an interesting way of selling them physically.
Really would be interesting.
I don't know if that's plausible or not. I think it's kind of neat.
I think it's possible. I just don't think it's. I'm not sure it's gonna be the.
I don't think it's likely.
I don't think it's I don't think it's maybe the best route for you know for them to go. But I think it's totally possible.
It'd be
it's
cool.
kind of like the idea of like people just see imagine like a super cool looking like Link toy, right? And it just says, oh, plug this on your system and play The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Fangs 3000 in the future. like I don't think I just don't see how that'll maybe as like I don't see that as being like the main strategy. Like maybe that could happen.
No, digital is going to be the main strategy for sure.
Yeah, but still, I think accessories, collectibles, things for us to have to collect are still going to be a thing, which is kind of like why we like retail, which is why we've always liked having cartridges and stuff because we like having those things to have as a library. But I think like amiibos, accessories, stuff like that. But games themselves are going to be digital. So, yeah, I expect Bethesda games maybe at least one more this year, but no more than that probably. Early next year, if anything. There is that Panic Button game that we still don't know about. It could be a Fallout game. Although I think it's been confirmed that Fallout 4, there are no current plans to bring that to the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah,
but it could still be Fallout 76.
No current plans.
Right, that's also true. But I'm just saying that even if it's not Fallout 4, it could be Fallout 3, which some people have said they would prefer over Fallout 4. Or it could be Fallout 76, which is also a possibility, I think. But is it
honestly,
likely?
I think Fallout 3 would be a better situation just because that game would run really well on the Switch because it's the last generation game. So there would be less compromises than with Fallout 4. So, and people seem to like it more. You can get remaster on there. I think that would be a better fit. Even though Fallout 4 could definitely run, I think they're just, obviously compromises would be made, and maybe Fallout 3 is a better fit.
What if they just remastered Morrowind? That's the third Elder Scrolls game.
Right, yeah, I know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I would like to play that, actually.
Did they just release that? They just released that on the Xbox One, like, backwards compatibility.
Like, so, I kind of want, like a
full remaster, because that game looks ugly.
Yeah. Kind of like what we want for Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask.
But, like, that game has such interesting worlds.
Yeah.
Like, there's just weird giant bug creatures and stuff. It's strange.
Yeah. Let's move on, because I think we still have a lot to cover. So... Right. And I'm sweating bullets, man. I'm literally melting as we speak. Again, probably a blessing in disguise that the camera is gone, because you'll just see me as a giant sludge monster. Nah, it's not that bad, but it's pretty bad. So, you know, I kind of bunched this all information into one, but there were several reports. Reggie said that Metroid Prime 4 is progressing well. Bill Trinan said that Yoshi is progressing well. Both have been confirmed to be 2019, well, non-2018 titles, I should say. They're not confirmed for 2019. Yoshi is slated for 2019. Metroid Prime 4 is TBA, just to be clear about that. But both of the games are reportedly progressing very well. And Bill Trinan, when he talked about Yoshi, said that we could expect to hear more about it later this year. And that's really the point I'm getting at here. So these games are progressing well, and more announcements are to come. That's what Reggie said. And Bill said that we could expect to hear more about Yoshi this year. So I'm connecting the dots, and I'm sort of suggesting, hey, does that mean there's going to be a big Nintendo Direct that talks about 2019 games? I think the answer is yes. In fact, I'd have to find the source. I don't have the source on hand because I kind of just came up with this on the spot. But I remember something about when the Nintendo Direct for the E3 was announced. They said it would be, you know, basically 2018 games like this, you know, focusing on just this year like they always do. But there was also another thing that was said that they would talk about 2019 games at a later date, which is not something they normally do. And then I couldn't find that source, so I haven't looked it up. But I have a feeling that maybe we'll get something at some point. I feel like December is probably the month for it. But I think in December we can maybe get like a preview for a lot of games that are coming out in 2019, which could include Yoshi, definitely Fire Emblem, Daemon X Machina, maybe Animal Crossing, maybe Pikmin, probably Bayonetta, and God willingly, Metroid Prime 4. You know, I would love that.
I definitely do see a big 2019 Direct coming because, as you said, you know, they pretty much confirmed, you know, we're going to see more about Yoshi this year. I think we'll see, as you said, Daemon X Machina, Fire Emblem, perhaps Animal Crossing or Pikmin. But I just don't see them showing off Metroid Prime 4 until E3. Because I really think that's going to be just a massively huge game. But maybe we'll get some kind of like
teaser, like just a teaser, like basically like slightly more of a teaser than Metroid Prime. Like maybe we get a look at like Samus's helmet, right, or something like a close-up image of like her somewhere, and it just says Metroid Prime 4 2019.
You should just do what they did for Halo Infinite and just have like Samus in the foreground and then like a bunch of stuff, and then it just like, you know, it's got like the focus is on the forefront.
I'm just saying,
like,
if you're gonna have
switches.
if you're gonna have like a direct that's like a hype direct, right? That's just good. It's like the blowout direct to show off the big guns they have for 2019. Yes, they could save it for E3. They could totally do that. But I'm just saying, like, Nintendo knows we want to hear about Metroid Prime. Like, they know, right? And if you want to control like the hype levels, the trending levels, having a Metroid Prime 4 teaser would definitely go a long ways towards doing that. Now, will they do it? I don't know, because everyone thought this year at E3 it would be a super massive, ginormous thing, one of the best E3s ever, and it was actually one of the more underwhelming ones in recent, well, at least compared to 2017. So, you know, I'm making an argument that it makes sense for them to sort of show off these things, but at the same time, this is Nintendo. It's kind of hard to predict what they're going to do.
Right. And I mean, Reggie did say he didn't want to keep teasing the Metroid Prime fans over and over again, even though I think that's what they should do. So
well,
that's what's gonna get them
I think one teaser a year is fair. So, like, here's an example. Here's a perfect example. We've made the comparison that what's happening with Metroid Prime is kind of like what was happening with Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild had its teaser in 2014. It was a no-show at E3 2015, but at the end of 2015, at the Game Awards, we did get the teaser we wanted, right? And then we got the blow in 2016. So maybe
Game Awards could totally be.
So the parallel could be, we got the confirmation / teaser 2017, no show at E3 2018, but later this year in December, either if it's at the Game Awards or Nintendo Direct, we get a teaser just saying the year, and then blowout next year at E3.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So let's see what you guys are saying in the chat though. Sav is saying, do you guys get mad that games get delayed? Mad is not the right word. I would say disappointed. But normally for me, right, like they're varying levels, right? Because like I have this YouTube channel, and if I talk about something and I see I'm wrong about something, I'm like, oh, okay, well I probably should address that to my viewers, right? Because I want to be honest with them. But then also there are times where I'm just like, oh, okay, well, that sucks. Like sometimes I am like, wow, that sucks. But at the same time, in most situations, at least now, I'm like, but there's so many other games for me to play. I really shouldn't be that disappointed. Like this year, I guess like this year's E3 was a little disappointing. But guess what? I'm playing Wolfenstein 2 right now. I'm gonna play Dark Souls Remastered in a month or so. I'm gonna play Octopath Traveler in a couple months. I'm gonna get Mario Party in October. I'm gonna get Pokemon Let's Go in November. I'm gonna get Smash in December. That's a lot of games for me that are going to take up time, and there's probably a couple others they're going to play at some point as well, too.
And we got the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 DLC, which it might as well be.
It's the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 DLC, the Splatoon 2 DLC, right? Like, those are... I still haven't picked up Doom. I still haven't played Bayonetta 1 and 2. So there's all these different games that I still need to go back and play. So am I a little disappointed by, for example, we didn't see Metroid Prime 4, Fire Emblem was delayed? Yes, I am disappointed.
My baby.
But there's like I said, most of the time I'm just like, hey, there's so many other stuff for me to play. There's also this thing called life, where know I have other things to be concerned about. There's so much going on in the game industry and life in general that sometimes I'm disappointed. But there's so much more to focus on that I get over it pretty quickly.
Back in the Wii U days, though, when they delayed Breath of the Wild, I was like, the only game that was gonna save the Wii U.
Then that was different because that literally was it. Yeah, that was
so crushing.
That was a little different. That was bad. That was bad.
So bad. I remember I was so hyped. I was like, "Oh, Aonuma had something." It was Miyamoto, whoever said that. They're like, "They have something to sell in Zelda." Delayed. And then I just sat and cried in my bed for all day. And my parents were like, "What's wrong with him?" I'm like, Zelda. Actually, it wasn't that bad, but it would have been funny if it was.
I actually believed it. I didn't think you were joking.
No, I'm joking. I did go to my parents and was like, "You see what happened? This is what happens. What's life?"
No, yeah, for me, like if Zelda's delayed, I'll be upset. Like I'll be like, "Oh my god, this sucks," but I'll get over it, right? But it is something I'll like walk up to my friend or my brother or something like, "Oh my god, something terrible happened." They're like, "Oh my god, what's wrong? What's wrong?" Zelda got delayed. Like, but get over it. But yeah, I would say the Wii U era was terrible, right? But the Switch era is not terrible. There's too many games to play. Yeah.
Yeah, the Switch era is. I'm like, oh, Animal Crossing didn't get announced. That's fine. I probably wouldn't have been able to afford it anyways.
Exactly. There's like a dozen other games that we probably can and will want to play before that game comes out.
Speaking of Doom, I'm buying Doom this week because up until July 5th, it's only $15 on Steam with all 3 DLC packs.
That sounds pretty worth it.
Like you're not getting that.
Yeah, it definitely sounds pretty worth it. So Sav is also asking, do you think Nintendo should keep doing E3? I think they should continue doing the same thing they're doing. I think that Nintendo came up with the right format 4 or 5 years ago. Well, they started actually with Breath of the Wild. Well,
2014, I think, was the start of that kind of presentation, I think.
Well, they started doing the Nintendo Directs. And then they started using Directs or presentations like Directs to talk about their games, right? But then they also shifted the Treehouse stuff, starting with Breath of the Wild in
2014.
Well, Breath of the Wild was 2016 when we had the Treehouse game.
But they had Treehouse in 2014 as well.
Did they?
They had Treehouse in 2014.
Oh, you know what I'm thinking? They transitioned to the big, like, focus of a game and making kind of like a theme park around it.
Yeah, that was in 20.
So I think the 2016 was like the first of the most current framework they have now. But
right.
And before then, they were kind of doing adjustments all throughout. But they started a few years before that with the Directs and the Treehouse, like you said. I think they definitely should continue that, for sure. I think we're seeing Sony basically copy Nintendo now. We're seeing Xbox doing something a little different as well that's more comparable to what Nintendo's doing now as well.
Smash Ultimate was the #1 trending thing on Twitter during E3.
Yeah.
The release date announcement and Ridley being in Smash were the #1 tweeted things about E3 in general. And Nintendo themselves were #1 overall for everything, and Smash was #3 overall for everything. So it worked out really well.
Though supposedly their E3 was underwhelming. Right? So I think Nintendo's actually marketing themselves really well now, and the way they're handling E3 is probably the best they've handled it. This current framework is their best framework. I think they should continue this and just find ways to make it better, if anything. But honestly, I think it's fine. Like, they told us that they would only be focusing on 2018 games. Like, it's kind of like one of those things where, like, hey, We're telling you. Well, they did technically lie because they showed Fire Emblem and Daemon X
They
Machina.
lie every time.
They did. even when it was underwhelming, they still lied. So, I'm not sure. I like it the way it is. I don't think they should change it.
Yeah, I get super hyped every time it's E3, but I also like that they don't just wait till E3 every time. They also have these big directs where they announce things like Doom and Wolfenstein 2. So there's some big directs throughout the year where actual games get announced. That doesn't really happen that much for other consoles.
Right. So let's move on. So have you been able to play the Labo set in Mario Kart yet?
Unfortunately, I had not because I don't have the Labo set.
Okay, so we're gonna go through this topic really quickly then.
Right.
I played with the Labo just like right before this podcast, and I have to get yeah, I kind of just left it there. No one can see now because my camera stopped working. But anyways, it was weird. I'm not sure if I like it, to be honest with you. One, because Mario Kart, at least for me, it's all about precision and speed and dexterity, right? And that was kind of just like a wonky, janky mess. I was playing at 50cc and I was still like in 9th or 10th place. So, it wasn't good. Maybe I'll get a better hang of it, but it didn't feel good to me, just to be frank.
Yeah. I mean, the motion controls for Mario Kart 8 just aren't that great. I mean, they worked okay with the Wii one because the Wii one was a lot slower. Of a gameplay, but I mean, when you're on 200cc, when Mario Kart 8 is already typically a faster game than a lot of the other Mario Karts, motion controls just don't cut it. They just don't. You need way more precise controls.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if I were to play a little bit more, I'll get a better hang of it, but like, it wasn't like a seamless transition. Like, oh my god, I can jump to 200cc now. Like, it was like the exact opposite. I was losing at the easiest difficulty. So, and I'm pretty good at Mario Kart. Like, I'm the person that would joke around with my friends and family on the Wii U, right? I would literally beat them using one hand with my Wii U controller, finish the race while eating ice cream, go to the kitchen, get another more ice cream, sit down on the couch, and they still wouldn't be done racing. And I would have been eating ice cream and playing with one hand. That's how good I was at Mario Kart. Okay,
that family sucks.
Well, my skills had depreciated a little bit recently, but still, I'm just trying to say I'm not a novice, okay?
Right.
Like, I get all gold trophies at 200cc. It's just,
Right.
So, like, and I sucked. I sucked with the Labo. Maybe, like I said, if a price would be better.
It's a big learning curve, I think, for the motion controls. In fact, just Mario Kart 8 in general was a big learning curve for me. Like, I was pretty good at the older Mario Karts, and then I jumped into Mario Kart 8, and I was like, why am I getting, 10th place every time? Why is this so hard? And I had to, really learn, how all the mechanics worked and how drifting worked, because it's so much more of an emphasis in this game than it was in the other ones. So, for me, it took a while. So, maybe it'll be the same for you, and eventually you'll
really hard for me to drift. It was really hard for me to drift with the Labo set, because, you have to twist the gear and then put your hands on the lever that's like the brake in the normal Labo motorcycle game, but it's actually the drift button in this game in Mario Kart, and you're also turning. It's very awkward. So
have you tried turning on auto acceleration? I heard that helps a lot.
Yeah, but it doesn't sound right.
I mean, it's the same thing. You just don't have to.
Right.
Turn the thing.
I agree, but then it's I feel like it defeats the purpose. I'm just saying, the whole point of the setup is you actually have it feels like a motorcycle, you actually twist it. And for that record, it doesn't feel as much of a motorcycle like the motorcycle set. There's no HD rumble being used. The thing is, it's kind of that tacked on support. They didn't put much time into balancing out the game. They didn't change around the game to use this Labo functionality. It's tacked on. It's like a quick little patch, honestly. It's not a big deal. Maybe if you want to play around with it, if you're good at using motion controls, maybe you can get a better hang of it. Like I said, I only played one race, so, maybe I'll get a better hang of it if I continue with it. But just to be blunt, it just feels tacked on. It just does. It doesn't feel nearly as good as the actual Labo motorcycle game, and it doesn't feel like an appropriate Mario Kart game either. So, yeah. But again, I'll probably give it another try, and if I change my mind about it, I'll let you guys know next week. So, yeah. That's all I have to say about it. I do like the idea that they are adding Labo functionality to games. I think that's definitely something they should continue in the direction of random. I mean, you made a video about it this week talking about it, your idea about like creating a Labo like flashlight and using it in Luigi's Mansion, epic. Like that would be so cool to have, move around an actual like cardboard flashlight. I could see the potential there. I think there's definitely something they could do, and you know, it's kind of one of those things where like we're just getting started with Labo. We're just getting started with using Labo in other games. As time goes on, they will be better with the functionality and how it's used. So if eventually we get that Luigi's Mansion game for Switch with that Labo functionality, I'm hopeful that it will actually work pretty well. But we'll see. Yeah. Ready to move on to Smash Weekly then?
Sure.
All right. So let me see. I'm sure I was ready. Yeah. Okay. I just have to press enter here. There we go. All right. So let's see. I'm gonna go to that Smash blog. Super Smash blog. Okay, so where we left off, I think the last thing we saw was Snake, right? The last thing we saw was Snake,
Yep.
we talked about last week. So let me see if I can put it up on the stream for you guys. Did I exit this thing? Window capture? Yeah, well that's not the right thing at all. Yeah, that's more there. That's still wrong. Okay. Still wrong. Still wrong. Great. Actually, it's not wrong.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, there you go.
How's it look? Does it look fine?
I'm looking on the stream right now. It seems to look fine.
Okay, so for they added music for Noisy Notebook. I could play it, actually.
Go for it.
I could play it quickly.
Yeah, that's the one from Snipper Clips, which it's actually really good. Like I love the Snipper Clips music. I love Snipper Clips in general. Great game.
Very loud.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Okay, that's enough. Yeah, I've heard it before, but it's cool. I like it, I guess. Like, I mean,
makes me wonder: is there going to be a Snipper Clip stage? That'd be dope.
Maybe.
I'd really hope. I feel like that would fit in really well with Smash, and it'd be just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think it's like a song, right? Like, how often do we get songs in a game, but we don't get any other representation?
Right.
I feel like there's got to be something, at least in the Sys Trophy, maybe a stage. There's definitely potential for a stage, but
it was a big game on the Switch. Like it did some good sales.
So if this was not like Smash Ultimate, I would maybe say yes immediately. But because it's not, I'm a bit hesitant because I feel like they're not going to add like 30 new stages. Like they're going to add like 15 new stages, right? And they're going to focus on bringing back all the old stages. And so what that means to me is that they're going to be selective about which stages they bring in that are new. So I'm just saying, if there's going to be bringing 15 new stages, and one of those stages is Snipper Clips, I'm not sure if that's gonna I'm not sure that it'll make the cut. You know what I mean?
Possibly. I mean, the game was big enough to get its own DLC. Like that's a standalone game too. So
Yeah. No.
Well,
like I said, I'm not saying it won't happen. I'm simply just stating the things that go against it. Like, because I feel like Nintendo is going to be a bit more select, or Sakura is going to be a bit more selective about what stages make it into the game. Or not. Maybe they are going to add, like, 30 new stages. Maybe, they're just kind of like...
They did confirm that not every single stage from the older Smashes are coming back.
And I think that makes sense, because there are some stages that don't make any sense. Because, like, there's, like, 7 different Final Destinations or something. So, I don't think we need every one. I'm happy with just a new one for that.
Right.
But I think all of the unique
every
stages...
form of Battlefield.
Right, like, those I don't think we need, right? But I think maybe, like, Poke Floats? Like, I would like to see that come back. I would like to see the Kraid...
See that a lot.
I would like to see the Kraid stage from Melee make a comeback.
See that one a lot.
I've heard the Game Explain guys talk about getting all of the stages that weren't playable in Smash 64 available, like the Metal Mario stage or the training stage.
Sector Z.
Those would all be really, really cool.
Need Sector Z.
I would love that. Will it happen, though?
I don't know.
I think Sector Z actually has a really good chance. Because that's an actual stage. That's a playable stage.
Right.
But the non-play, well, you know, the single player only stages.
I don't see those going back, to be honest. It'd be neat, but I just don't see them in the cut.
It would be neat, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
I'd rather have a new snipper clip stage, to be honest.
I just hope that if they do it, they get really creative with it. It could be like the replacement to the Wii Fit stage, not the Wii Fit stage, like the Miiverse stage, because I think the Miiverse stage is not going to make it in because Miiverse is dead, right? But I think maybe they could have, like, not the Miiverse, but like, I guess, what stage is it where a whole bunch of random stuff happens? It's not. I think it was in Brawl. I don't remember. What stage was it? Like where?
Yeah, I think it was in Brawl, but I don't quite remember. I remember
the Picto Chat stage. It was a Picto Chat.
Picto Chat.
Right. Like, I don't know if they'll bring Picto Chat back, but maybe they could have like snipper clips kind of be like that replacement. You know,
Picto Chat was cool. Because I loved Picto Chat on the DS.
Picto Chat was cool. Miiverse is interesting. You see random stuff. Like, what if they were to sort of take kind of like the cool things about those two stages and sort of incorporate them in a way with the snipper clip stage, which kind of employs some of those ideas. Sort of a whole bunch of weird, funny stuff, right? But obviously, you know, it would have that filter. The Nintendo filter could be pre-designed and predetermined by Nintendo as opposed to whatever someone puts on Miiverse. Right.
Miiverse was terrible.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, the Miiverse stage was horrible. It felt like nobody monitored that.
Wait, I think Haifu Hyper is saying that the Picto Chat stage is confirmed to be back. Is it? Oh, I mean, if it is, cool.
That'd be weird, though. I feel like.
Is it?
I don't know. I feel like I feel like that's kind of the stage that doesn't make sense. Like, it's kind of that Miiverse situation where it's like Picto Chat isn't really a thing anymore. It's like, I don't know if that it's really a big enough. I don't know. Maybe it could come back.
I don't know.
It'd be interesting. I'd like it because I liked Picto Chat, but I feel like a lot of people would be like, what's Picto Chat?
Yeah, it was a fun stage.
There's no relevance
random stuff
to
coming
Picto
in.
Chat.
Yeah, but what was I gonna say?
It's not like, you know, the classic stages, you know, these are from classic games or anything. Like, those are more relevant because you can actually go back and play those games. Like, Picto Chat, who's gonna, like, that's not relevant anymore. Who's gonna go back and be like, oh, I'm gonna go play Picto Chat now? And that doesn't make much sense to me.
I wouldn't mind it, though. I mean, it's a cool stage.
It'd be cool because I love Picto Chat, but
yeah,
it just doesn't make it. I just feel like it's not relevant anymore. So, I feel like they probably wouldn't want to take the time to put it in.
Necessarily relevant today, Successor has been confirmed as an assist trophy, although we saw him during the direct. I don't really have much to say about him because I don't really know much about him. I know he's like an old character. He's like very obscure. But I guess I could use this as a question, like, what sort of this other assist trophy? I mean, it seems cool. I'm just saying I don't really have much to say about him. But like, what are sorts of assist trophies do you think we could see, you know, in Smash Ultimate?
I feel like they've covered a lot of games so far. It's hard. Off the top of my head, it's hard to think of anything that I'd want.
Well, I'll say this also kind of in response to what Haifu Hyper was talking about running Rayman in Smash. I do not think Rayman will be an assist trophy in Smash Brothers because I think Rayman is actually going to make it in the game. But I'll talk more about that later. Well, not today. I mean, like another video, because I already did my roster predictions. But I think he could be a DLC character. So.
You know what's going to be an assist trophy? It's going to be Excite Truck. He's not going to be a playable character, but he'll be an assist trophy.
Maybe. Excite Truck would be... It'd be cool, man, just to see a truck
just
land
running
on top
through
of
the
you.
stage.
I actually loved Excite Truck.
Run you over.
Loved Excite Truck on the Wii. It was so good.
Never played it.
It was great. It was a real, like, in terms of launch racing games, I think it was pretty up there. It looked really good on the Wii. I felt like I was playing like an Xbox Plus kind of game, like, because you know the Xbox had a lot of really good looking games. Like back then, the Excite Truck had like a lot of like realistic textures. It was huge worlds that you can like kind of like go. You went off track all the time, and like it was lots of terrain and destruction. It was honestly Excite Truck for the Wii I thought it was pretty. Thinking back on it, that game was actually pretty ambitious. I think. Still, I think I would love for there to be a new Excite Truck game. Actually, be amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, I realized you didn't play it, so you just kind of like, okay, whatever.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's neat.
In terms of assist trophies, I would like to see. I'm trying to think of one that. Well, Samurai Girl is already an assist trophy for Captain Falcon. I don't know. I guess you know what? I haven't really thought about actual assist trophies. Maybe. Well, you know what I would like to see actually? The dragon from Super Mario Galaxy. Yeah, that would be epic. Can you imagine? Like, it would be kind of like a Pokemon, but except it would be a giant space dragon. And you could like actually go through the stage and you have to hit it, like its tail and stuff at certain points. Kind of like when it goes to the planets and galaxy.
Right?
Yeah, it'd be really cool. So
Yeah, it's really hard to think of assist trophies, to be honest. Because they're like, you gotta start thinking of like obscure characters, and it's just like, I have to go back and think about it for a while to really get a good sense of what I would want.
yeah. So on the 27th we got Solgaleo and Lunala confirmed, which I think was expected. I would like to see some Ultra Beast though, some other obscure Pokemon actually shown off. I actually had the idea. I think I brought up in the Discord chat for those watching. Discord chat. There's a link to that in the description below. There's also Brandon has his own Discord as well, so check that out. But like I think because they sort of already started doing this in the previous Smash game, they had Master Balls to sort of suggest like legendary or more powerful Pokemon, and the Pokeballs for like everything else. It would be cool if they introduced like Beast Balls, because like you needed these Beast Balls to catch the Ultra Beasts, which are like alternate dimension Pokemon introduced in Sun and Moon in this game. Like, one, I want those in the game because they're powerful and crazy, right? But also, like, what if you saw them in these blue Beast Balls, right? So then we have the Beast Balls, we have the Master Balls, the Pokeballs, and heck, maybe they can take it a step further and have Great Balls and Ultra Balls to sort of suggest, like, the rarity of them. Like, maybe Ultra Balls are, like, you know, final evolution Pokemon, right? Master Balls are legendaries. Great Balls are, like, mid-evolution Pokemon. Pokeballs are, like, you know, basic, like, first stage evolution Pokemon. And then and then Beast Balls are Ultra Beasts. Like, that'd be pretty interesting.
I feel like they only should have 3, just because I feel like a lot of there's just too many different versions of Pokeballs might confuse people who aren't completely, you know, like understanding of what they are. It's like, why are there 6 different Pokeball items? And what? So I think just this 3 would probably be better, just to confuse less people.
No, I disagree with you. Well, I mean, like, I see what you're saying. Like, you know, you don't need to have that many Pokeballs. I totally understand what you're saying. You don't really need them. You don't. But, like, I feel like it would be pretty easy to tell because, so Pokeball is red, right? Great Ball is blue. Ultra Ball is yellow and black. Master Ball is purple. And then the Beast Balls are, like, have blue and black, or blue lines on top of black. Like, I think they're all pretty easy to differentiate from each other. And, like, you could, like, Master Balls are these giant legendary Pokemon, right? Like, those are pretty distinguishable between baby Pokemon, right? Which would be Pokeballs or, like, starter Pokemon, right? And then Stage 2 Pokemon are kind of like the middle ground between those, and then the Ultra Ball Pokemon, which would be fully evolved Pokemon. I feel like it would be pretty easy to distinguish them. And Ultra Beast Pokemon, you could literally, like, shoot them and you see them come out of, like a portal, like you see them, like, tear through the dimension. Like, I could see that being done, and they could create, like, a different animation for each one. And on top of that, when you see a ball, I'm just saying, I just throw it, man. I don't care what ball it is. It's going to be useful regardless. So, that's my opinion on it, but I also see what you're saying, how, like, one, they don't really need that. Like, they could even erase Master Balls and just have Pokeballs, and I don't think anyone's going to complain. Well, somebody's going to complain, but it will still be okay. So, yeah, but I mean,
maybe you could have more customization that way to, you know...
Right, you could turn off the different balls.
The more, you know, advanced, like, super overpowered balls instead of just having 2 options to turn off or 3. So I could see that. Maybe, yeah, it could be better that way. I'm just impressed by, like, how good the Pokemon look. Like, their models are very nice.
That's interesting, because I actually think they look like trash.
What? You're insane.
It's not that I think they look like trash, I just think they look basic. Like,
they're very simplistic, but they look like they're very high polygon, though.
But there's no textures. It's just like color. You know what I mean? Like, there's no texture. It's just like flat color, and it's not cell shaded like the other Pokemon games either. They're not cell shaded. They're something else.
No, they have a very more advanced subsurface scattering.
It kind of reminds me of like the the Dream Radar or like the Pokédex sort of thing that came out. Like not exactly, but whatever. It still looks fine. I'm nitpicking.
they're Pokemon. They're not going to be as highly detailed as the other one. They have so many that they have to make, and they have to be able to run them and all their effects with up to 8 players on screen. So obviously they're not going to look as good. But
I mean, giving them another look, I think they look fine.
I mean, compared to the games they're from, they look freaking amazing.
I just don't think they look. I guess that's where we differ. I'm not impressed. You're impressed. So I guess like for me, it's an expectation that they should be like higher polygon and stuff like that. For you, it's just like, oh, this looks a lot better, and I guess it does in a way, but it's also a different look. That's
I like the way the lighting interacts with the Pokemon in this game. That looks really good.
That's true. There is more of a dynamic lighting system now, which is cool.
Physics-based rendering and all that stuff that I'm not going to go into because people will not understand what I'm talking about.
I'll pass out from confusion. So, Donkey Kong. So there's this thing about Donkey Kong that I think is really cool. Like in the Nintendo Direct, they show off all his facial expressions, and it's just a great example of how much more work has gone into this game. Yet, his fur is bad.
So ugly.
Like people have used Donkey Kong as an example to say this game is a port because it looks worse, and I just think it's a bad design choice.
That makes no sense. It's a different shader completely from the Wii U version.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is that like his facial expressions are way more advanced. Like it's all actually animated. There's a lot of animation there. In that regard, it's super advanced. It looks super cool. But that fur, man, I hope they fix that.
It's so bad. It looks like my Amiibo of Donkey Kong. In fact, today on Coffee Talk, I just pulled out my Amiibo of Donkey Kong and was just like, it looks the same.
Yeah.
It's that bad. It looks like an Amiibo. Oh, it's so bad. And I don't understand. It literally, the fur, it doesn't have a fur shader, pretty much. It has texture instead. Like the Wii U one actually had like a fur shader that made it look like there's fur.
Do you think they're going to change it?
Depth. I hope so. It looks so bad.
Yeah, I don't like it.
And it doesn't make any sense. There's no reason you can't run.
I wonder if they're just thinking if it wouldn't mesh with the style. Yeah, I don't know.
Should make sense to me. Like I don't expect it to look as good as like his picture, his character picture that you see in the thumbnail. Like I don't expect it to look that freaking good.
Please excuse the lag, guys. That just my computer sucks and I'm using it as while streaming. But I just want to see this because I haven't seen this yet. I'm looking at the Sonic video now.
Looks bad.
Oof, so bad, so bad.
It looks like his fur is disgustingly matted.
Oh, you're still talking about Donkey Kong?
Yeah. Are you talking about Sonic?
I was just looking ahead.
Okay.
So Knuckles is there. Okay, Knuckles is an assist trophy. I think Knuckles is pretty cool.
I don't think he needs to be his own character.
Neither do I. Oh, something happened. I didn't see it because my stream was minimized. What happens? Did I get a subscriber or something? Might have been someone who's not watching. Whatever happened, thank you. I just missed it. I'll have to double check what happened.
That's why you need Streamlabs OBS. You can just check instantly.
Yeah, I could double check Streamlabs. I'll check it later. But yeah. Yo, you think Haifu Hyper thinks Shadow's gonna be an assist trophy? Yo, you know what? Everyone would be so upset because everyone's like, oh, he's gonna be a character. I even predicted him to be a character because I'm kind of on the same bandwagon. But I mean, I wouldn't be that disappointed. I could see it happening. I could see it just be them just not having shown it off yet.
You know, another character I don't think they've shown off as their assist trophy is Skull Kid. I don't think we've seen him as an assist trophy yet.
Oh my god. If he's a character, I would be
They brought
so
back
hyped.
Young Link, it would make sense.
Yeah.
I would be hyped too. I'd freak out.
They got Falco's fur better.
Yeah, I know, understand. The fur on Fox and Falco looks fine. The fur on Donkey Kong just looks ugly. The fur on Diddy Kong
I guess
looks
technically
good
it's furthers. I said furthers,
right.
feathers.
Whatever. But the fur effect on Diddy Kong actually looks good.
I'm actually go to Diddy Kong right.
It's weird.
gonna go Diddy Kong right now and kind of
From what I
compare.
remember. Yeah, I'm gonna actually go there too because
Check a still of that.
if I remember right, it looks better. But I haven't. I mean, I didn't ever do like a graphics comparison. It's just off the top of my head.
It does look better.
Yeah, that one looks totally better. Like, that's great.
I think part of that though is the fact that it's a smaller model.
Yeah, but it actually looks
it actually kind of looks
pretty
like fur.
close to fur.
It might just be that they're not done with the Donkey Kong model yet.
Wait, there's an actual shader to it. Like Donkey Kong doesn't have a shader. This one has a shader.
Like maybe they just haven't gone to that point with Donkey Kong yet.
I guess.
Hopefully,
because there's an actual fur shader in place. Donkey Kong doesn't have a fur shader.
Like you actually see fur sticking out. Yeah, that's the thing. Like you actually see fur sticking out for Diddy Kong. Hopefully, hopefully it's just an early development thing.
Yeah, very possible.
Yeah,
because Diddy Kong looks good.
I almost want to make a bet that it is, but at the same time, it's just kind of one of those things where like they had to take quite. Donkey Kong's like one of the main guys. You know what I mean? Like I just wonder, like of all the things that they wouldn't have had ready, I'm not sure. It's kind of 50-50 for me. I'm kind of worried that they'll just stick with that, but I think part of me thinks that there's a good chance they will fix it.
Yeah.
And if you look at his art, though, like his art actually has like a lot of very realistic fur in mind.
Oh,
right?
I don't expect him to look anywhere near his art.
No, but it's just kind of like I just mean like the base design comes from that.
Right.
And the base like it's just kind of they're not. It's not a flat texture with their art style. So why are they going for that? It's just bad. I think they just maybe they weren't ready and they had to deactivate the fur or something before the game.
Yeah, very possible.
I hope, but it's hard to say.
I hope and pray, because this looks horrendous. It looks like an amiibo that can move.
Like he looks good, his fur doesn't.
Yeah.
Actually, this one scene right here doesn't look that bad. Maybe they'll just play around with it a little bit more. I don't know. It almost that's the other thing. It almost looks like it's a man wearing like a brown coat. A brown bodysuit. Yeah.
It looks like the Google image that pops up when you actually look up Donkey Kong, which is a man in a Donkey Kong suit.
Yeah, it does.
So
fun. Then, I think we've reached the natural conclusion to what to talk about for this week. Is there anything else you want to say, Brandon, before we call it a night?
Not really. I'm good. I think we covered pretty much everything.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening and watching. If you haven't been here before, make sure to like and subscribe. Check out Brandon's channel as well. It's What About Nintendo. The link to his channel is in the description below. And I'm now monetized, so if you want to sponsor the channel or, put any super chats, well, don't put any super chats because the stream's over. But if you want to sponsor the channel to have some exclusive features in terms of communication, check it out. But anyways, everyone, thank you so much for listening and watching again, and we'll see you all really soon. Bye.
Bye, guys.